Hello, everybody. I think I'm just about to say hello to the world. You're viewing the second annual Intelligent Speech Conference. Do it online. Since the global pandemic has meant that we couldn't do it in New York. Basically, what it does mean is that we have even speakers for you, and it means that Bob in Australia or Chad Davis or Robin Pearson from London can actually get together, because what Intelligent Speech is a festival. It's something, it's a place whereby you can come and gain insight, but also debate people who have, but also an inquiry. It's incredibly where we are now in the world, that civil discourse, something which we pursue, that we, but also that we fiercely guard. We should be able to debate and disagree, inquire with each other without demonizing each other. And I think it's a core element of citizenship. I think if the last 5 years have told us, we need to be aware of people with simple solutions. We need to have inquiring minds, but sorry, somebody's saying that I'm dropping and that my audio is dropping. Right. As far as it's on five bars here, and I'm quite close to my router. I realize for that, but throughout the day, this will get better. Everyone's saying it is getting better, so maybe the feed is actually kind of like settling down. Specifically, throughout the world, in the last 5 years, we've come up with simple solutions for complex problems. And we should be able, our citizens of our respective countries, to always stress test that complex pace. And having an inquiring mind means that we have the knowledge to be able to not be seduced by, at the heart is debate, the willingness to look at change, but also all citizens to be treated fairly. So I think with those, we should seek out voices that maybe you wouldn't agree with, or even who are talking about topics which you wouldn't necessarily think that actually interest you. Always try and learn something new. So I ask you, people at Intelligent Speech, to be part of the vanguard of fairness and of inquiry. Now, we're going to have a few words from our sponsor, ICM, in a little moment. But first, I'd like to call upon my colleague, Ben Jacobs, the bearded wonder, who is he's over there in the northeast of the United States, just to say a few words.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
I've got
Thumbs
you.
up? Okay. All right. So thanks, everybody, for coming. This has been a couple of months of insanely hard work on our end, on the back, and I just wanted to fly the flag for all the people who have helped make this happen. Royfield, obviously, and Zach, who we'll hear from in a few minutes. But our admins have been volunteering their time to get trained up with this new platform that none of us were really familiar with before. And then, of course, our speakers who are volunteering their time from around the world. For some of them, it is the middle of the night. For some of them, it is plenty of other inconvenient times, and we're all sticking in and making it work in conditions that are obviously not always ideal from a technical or practical standpoint. We've been able to bring this whole thing together based on, bubblegum wishes and good intentions, and hopefully we'll have a great time as a result. This has been a learning process for all of us, and as much as I have wanted to run into the hills and hide into a cave on a couple of occasions, I think it's been fun, and I think we're going to have a great day. So, and of course, the last group to thank is all of you for coming and hearing us, despite impromptu schedule changes and all this kind of thing. Without listeners, this would be a thoroughly pointless exercise. So, thank you all so much for coming, and now I'm going to turn it over to Zach, who's got a few words to kick us off.
Mr. Davis, do we have you?
Thank you, Royfield. Thank you, Ben. Thank you all for attending today. And a special thank you to Ray Belli, who has helped organize all the technical details and help make this happen today. So I'm Zachary Davis. I'm the president of Lyceum. I host 2 shows, Ministry of Ideas and a show about books called Writ Large. And we are thrilled to be helping to organize this wonderful event. Lyceum is a new platform, studio, and community dedicated to educational audio. We've curated loads of great shows. Most of the people speaking today you can find in the Lyceum app. And we help provide podcasters tools to engage more deeply with their listeners. So you can learn more at lyceum.fm. I have a few remarks now I wanted to share. From roughly 1346 to 1353, Europe was paralyzed by the most fatal pandemic in recorded human history, the bubonic plague. This disease was caused by a deadly bacteria that lived inside the black rat. And it's believed to be transmitted to humans by infected fleas that were feeding on infected rats. Although I saw on Twitter, apparently there's a new theory that calls that into question, but that's the story that we know best. The plague killed more than 60% of the total population in Eurasia. And one city that was especially hard hit was Florence, Italy. In just the first 4 months of the pandemic, their population was reduced by almost 80%. And the city spiraled into chaos. People began to fear one another, they abandoned their friends and families, and they locked themselves inside. Funeral practices stopped, no one was working. It was a complete collapse of society. One person who was hit particularly hard by the plague was the writer Giovanni Boccaccio. He lost his father, he lost his stepmother, and he lost a number of his friends. Somehow, amid his grief, he wrote a collection of short stories completed in 1353 called the Decameron. And the story is about 10 friends who decide that in order to save their own psychic well-being, to take a journey to the outskirts of Florence and spend 2 weeks in a beautiful villa with a garden and engage in merrymaking, song, and dance, but above all, storytelling. Night after night, they tell one another stories, totaling 100 in all, which is where the word Decameron comes from. Some of the stories are funny, some of them are tragic, but all of them are wise and humane and a celebration of humanity. They took their trip to affirm life in the face of suffering and death. And they affirmed life by sharing stories, by sharing ideas, and by sharing words. We ourselves are living through a time of plague, a time of social unrest, a time of political and cultural crisis. But by coming together and sharing ideas, sharing words, and sharing stories, we are in our own way, 700 years after the Decameron and the bubonic plague, affirming life, affirming humanity, and affirming our hope that we can come together to learn from one another and construct a better world than the one we're in. So thank you all for attending and sharing your intelligent speech.
Thank you, Zach. And I think I figured out my problem, everybody. I had my VPN on, so greatest apologies. Zach, the Decameron is one of the kind of like canons of early modern literature. And it's really apt that you brought it up now, considering that we are living through a plague at the moment. Has there been a work in the last 100 years to rival the Decameron, which gives us a real snapshot on the state of human being?
Well, there's been a lot of amazing text written, but I recently heard from someone that one of the best kind of guides to our present moment of political corruption and absurdity and almost surreal tragedy is 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, which just recounts generations of political folly and violence and absurdity. And yet there are moments of grace in between. So I think in my own life and interpretation, I'm doing what I can in small ways to preserve friendship and goodness and understanding and reach across differences to build a world with more solidarity and more kindness and more intelligence.
Ben, you've been a podcaster now for somewhat 6-7 years. In what way, tell us one or two things which maybe through your podcasting work and specifically your podcast with Vertical Westphalia that you've actually learnt about friendship and difference?
That's a big question.
Well, a few people actually said I'm asking big questions here, but I thought there's a way just to warm up the confidence.
Man, I don't know. You know, there's so many different kinds of people who get into podcasting. Mm-hmm. You know, when we started this, I mean, you're actually, I mean, you've been doing this longer than me, but you know, there's this stereotype about podcasters that it's dumpy, overweight white guys with giant beards in their basements, you know, just kind of talking. And while that certainly applies to me, what I think we've found is that whatever truth there was in that, you know, there's still certainly some persistence of that kind of thing within podcasting, but we're getting more and more different kinds of people in this community, in this world, and it's absolutely exciting. It's, you know, some of the best podcasts in the last, you know, just the last year, the last 2 years have become my favorite podcasts, and they're from people who, you know, are bringing completely different voices to the conversation.
It's really great that we're having instant feedback doing this. So Caroline Weber said she loves the big questions. She was lucky enough to attend in person last year and loved the philosophical discussions. Because I had my VPN on, because I'm an idiot, I'm just going to quickly run over what I said at the start for people who missed it. I set up Intelligent Speech to be a festival of ideas for people to gain insight through debate. What I think is absolutely core, which all of our societies need, is civil discourse, to be able to confront people with different ideas, but not to demonize them, but also to have the ability to learn. And I think that's at the core of citizenship, whether you're American, Australian, British, Zimbabwean, or Indian. That citizenship means embracing people who have different views from you in a spirit of openness and fairness, and also to be challenged. And we live in a time where there are many people who say there are really simple solutions to very complex problems, and we need to be aware of those types of people. So in the spirit of fostering good citizenship and democracy, that is really what I hope that you will get from Intelligent Speech, that you'll be able to maybe go and listen to some really passionate and informed speakers talking about topics that you love. You maybe listen to their podcast, you're used to his and her voice. But then, because we have so many speakers, we have 40 plus, I think it's incumbent upon us as good global citizens to seek out some or other of these presentations that you go, I don't really think that's for me. And because you don't think it's for you, it probably is exactly what you should be listening to. So go and seek out some of those presentations on topics which you don't know anything about, and go as a tabula rasa, as a blank slate, and go to be fed from the tree of knowledge. So, and be part of the vanguard for openness and fairness, because your country needs you, the world needs you, and your other conference goers need you to be part of that vanguard of openness and fairness. And that's what intelligent speech is all about. And hopefully, now I've taken off my VPN, every word of that has actually got out. So we're going to have 8 hours of presentations, of lessons. I'm doing a couple of open broadcasts. So not actually going to be in a lesson format. I'm going to do my Mid-Atlantic podcast. And they're just going to go live. Enjoy yourselves, make friends. I suppose it's going to be a great experience just to be able just to see your favorite podcasters, and maybe a podcast you go, oh, I don't know about that bloke or her or whatever, you know, go and have a listen to them, but ask them the difficult questions, but always in the spirit of openness and fairness, and the fact that, you know, you never know, you might actually be wrong and they might be right. So I give you Intelligent Speech 2020. Thank you for giving us this platform, Zach. You've been a very benevolent host and sponsor. Ben, I'm going to say this all the way through today. You've been utterly stunning, the amount of hard work that you put in behind the scenes. Dare I say it, you've done more than me, so I'm shamefaced. But to the 280 of you who are in here already, welcome to Intelligent Speech 2020. Enjoy yourself for the next 8 hours, and let's have fun.